myself, I don't care what you want or don't want me to be. Said I'ma make it, and when I gon' make it, and all of my brothers gon' eat.
Hello, كيفكم؟ تمام؟ أخباركم شنو? This is your cousin Amro, and welcome to the Distant Relative Podcast. Today, we have a special guest. Now, we're gonna do this in a special way. So first thing, Alhamdulillah Salama. Tell us your name,
much,
who
man.
you are, where you just came from.
Sure thing. Thank you for having me. Sorry, man. How are you? Hi there, guys. My name is Bashir. It's a lovely Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, for me here in the UK, and I just recently got back here from where? From Sudan, right? And such. And thank you so much for having me, Amra. I'm loving this distant relative. Let's go.
Hey, thank you. Man, Bashy, first of all, I was super excited for this. Kind of nervous, but super excited as well because
it's been a long time coming.
Exactly. So I was like, maybe this is gonna be like a 5-parter or a 4-parter because we have a lot to discuss. A lot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Straight away we do, but put it this way: it's we've been supposed to do this from 2020, right? So during the whole lockdown, coronavirus, we were supposed to have our chat, our podcast and such, and I would have loved to be back then, especially. But now, 2 years down the line from those days, I'm kind of glad and relieved that we're doing this now. I have more interesting stories to say, I guess. So yeah, man. So thank you once again.
Interesting stories is definitely an understatement. Before, we started figuring out this new way of introducing someone or someone telling us who they are, and it's more we do it more in that person's story while discussing that story rather than just have an introduction and go like khalas, this is the person. So before we start building that character or that story about who Bashy is, in 2 seconds, where did you just come from in Sudan? Because saying Sudan is a general statement where you were in a very specific.
Wallahi, man, if you really want to know the answer to that, it's Sharwani, كويس. It's مظاهرات يعني قاعدين في القدام straight at the front lines. I was more at the front lines than I've seen my own family. And I've tasted more bumban than I have bukhur. And I might be a bit addicted to it now, to be honest. So if you want to be specific on where I just came from, bruh, we outside, we at the front, and we enjoying it, to be honest. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Hey, I hope I'm not being, marked down on this right now. Hey.
No. It's just I had to write that line down. I smell more dukhan. Oh, sorry. I smell more bumban than bukhur because that in itself is like has to be put out there because I never thought of it in that manner. But to get there, no, that's smooth. And that, is a testament to the reason why we want to talk to Bashy. Because Bashy knows about these things, knows how to speak, knows how to give you that story. But for us to get to who Bashy is or how did you get to Sudan, we need to go back. We need to start from the beginning. Why Bashy, or Bashir, sorry, was in Sudan. Why was he in the front lines? Why was he doing all of that? What led him to be there? Why is he in the UK? There's a lot of questions to build that context to it. So let's start from the early days. So
go for it.
Who is Bashir? How did Bashir get to the UK? Why is Bashir in the UK? So
oh damn! All right, now these are the opening liners, that you wish you could say in a social event, but then it bores people. But I hope I don't bore you guys, right? So basically, Bashir or Elbashir or Bashy or this guy, this random enigma that you might meet in your life, he started out back in Oman, in Sultanate Oman, back in '95. And I don't know why he's talking in the third person right now, but I was there until until 1999, and then I left for the UK with my family. I was 3, 4, And funnily enough, we entered the UK on the 31st of the 12th December 1999. So just the day before, like the Y2K bug, before, that supposed scare and the new millennium. My guy, I was the new millennium, and I came straight into the UK with that. And imagine this fresh kid, from Sudani heritage and culture, and growing up in Oman, and then it was formative years for me there and here in the UK. Lived in different places all over the UK. Being first in Birkenhead, so next to your favorite Liverpool team. So there's Liverpool, right? And then there's a bridge that connects to Merseyside, or like Birkenhead is connected by a bridge. So I used to live just a bridge away from Liverpool, and then a place called Chester, no relation to Manchester, and then down to Cardiff, Wales, where I have been currently residing here for I want to say 21 years now. I've been in Cardiff. Wow. And yeah, what an adventure that's been, But I think the things I'm going to say, I think I'm going to ask the audience, a bit of a question. The question is, do you believe in fate, or do you believe in things just happening to come together in a weird way? Maybe it's a mindset thing, maybe it's fate, maybe it's your own actions, but let's hear this story, all right? And let's go with that.
So your question is, do things happen for a reason?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's a question. That's a question to keep in mind for all the audience from now until the end, because Bashy started it in the perfect way. I don't think I could have ever started it in that manner, because now I'm intrigued, even though I know why you said that. But so
I just thought of this. Yeah, go for it.
So Bashy's in Wales. You're 4 years old. New world. Obviously, there isn't much to talk about or think about from the beginning, because the differences for a 4-year-old won't be as much as a 8, 9, 10-year-old. Yes. When it comes to remembering how it felt and everything. So let's think about, what was your first experience or first day in school like? Do you remember the first days?
I was hoping you wouldn't say that question, because I actually remembered it. How could I forget, man? I came into okay. There's primary school days, but let me talk about the ones in Cardiff, right? The other ones were just me being a cheeky little boy, and I didn't know any better. But I think maybe that's where I got my bit of confidence in intense situations from, which you'll hear from later. But essentially, here in Cardiff, the first day, bright orange jacket. Everybody else walking to school, and then how you see this stupid little snotty kid, on a scooter, freaking rolling his way into primary school, and that's when I felt pain for the first time. I'm sure, whether I believe it or not, I know from that day I felt pain. Have you ever had a scooter on the side, when you swing it around and it just touches your ankle?
Oh, the ankle breaker.
Yeah, absolute killer, right? So you really feel it. And that's why I remember the first day of school, man. That was a pain. And the people that I went to school with, they tell me this story on how I came in on a scooter on a bright orange jacket. And now that I think about it, I can forget a lot of other days, but the first day of school, and then I noticed, I can't say I noticed, I was like 4 or 5, right? But to me, it felt right. What did I mean by right? So I grew up in a multi-ethnic environment, in a multi-ethnic area that has multiple ethnicities, strong communities here in Bhutan that have been here for over 200 years. 200 years. That's not a small stretch, right?
That's the name of your city in Cardiff, Bhutan?
Bhutan, yeah. That's the name of the area. And that's not a small stretch. So we have Somalis and Yemenis that have been here for 200 years. So there's a rich history. So already when you coming, and for my parents especially, you think of coming to the UK, and it's going to be the natives, like the British, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever that's supposed to mean. And maybe there might be the issues of racism, and I'm sure they've had these thoughts, right? But then they come into a community area where you see people wearing jalabiyas and thobes and abayas and alallas and like they're in the hilla, yani. As if home for Sudan, well, they're in Sultanate Oman. So to them it felt like home, and to me that also felt like home. And then you go to a primary school where it's full of that, you know. So the ideas of being segregated, the ideas of though you may be in the UK, does not mean you can't be inclusive. And I was very lucky enough to be in that kind of environment, and I went forward as well. Sorry if I'm skipping any parts into my high school years as well, where it was fully ethnic, you know. And I think that's what drove me, the understanding from those formative years. Essentially led me to take the road that I'm on now. I think.
So from what you're saying is that, given that your schooling you didn't find yourself in that typical immigrant kid situation where you're in a different school, different country, everyone looks differently, so now you're out of place. This was more of everyone's from a similar heritage, similar culture.
Yes.
Given that you were born and raised in Oman, you were already used to seeing different ethnicities, different types of Muslim Arabs, or any types of people around you. So switching Oman with the UK was less of a culture shock than it would be expected.
Yes, I couldn't put it any better than that. And just to add on, sorry to cut you off, just to quickly add on to that. So even if there was the new kid that came from, like, you know, from the countries we came from and such, they were welcomed very quickly, and they can communicate with the other kids because, masalan, Arabic or like the local languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before you know it, you felt like a responsibility to your fellow, like, classmate, to your new classmate. ولا أي واحد أي زول يعني or أي واحدة coming into the UK, getting into your classes from a young age. You want to make sure they're good, they're happy, you know, everything okay. You understand what's going on. So not much of the bullying, يعني, you know. That's very anticlimactic, isn't it?
No, that's actually pretty interesting, because that is a more of a cultural thing, an Arab Muslim cultural thing, rather than you know, like hey, this is our community, see, we want to take care of each other. Because when you're kids are brutal, and when it comes to their, you know, calling things out or seeing what's different or highlighting what's different. So the fact that for younger kids, to them, they felt that responsibility to take in someone new, that takes a lot of emotional intelligence, because you first need to put yourself in their position or go back to when you were in their position, and then applying that to yourself, and then choosing to act. Because even if you understand something or understand why something's happening, it's easier as a kid to choose not to act on the right thing and just go for whatever is easier or more fun, or
sure you're not a solicitor, because, you know, the way I see it, my friend, on top of that, it definitely helps with coming to terms with the larger world. You know, you quickly get to understanding that something that I don't think many people have their privilege to, and that is seeing people from different backgrounds. Wallahi, it may sound, you know, cliche, it may sound stupid, but the way having informative years is essential. I've seen it around in not only in the UK, but when you're in a place where you only get to see one type of groups of people, kidda, and how you handle them. You know, and you meet a new kind of an alien in their eyes or something, you wouldn't know how to handle it, you know. And we'll hold on to that point, because
as humans, we're always afraid of something we don't understand, right? And we tend to reject it. Okay, so yeah, let's go from this to, do you remember something that happened in your formative years, in your schooling years, that kind of started making you think about leadership, or being a leader, or being in that mindset of, hey, I can change the world, or I can change my environment, community, anything.
Do you
Or,
still see me like that?
well, hey, you,
can't
maybe I'll be able to convince you that with that fact after this interview is done. Maybe after we go through all the facts, you might say, you know what? I get it.
Nah. This is This is gonna be a tough challenge for you, but I'll hold you on to that. But I wish I had something like that, memorable. But all I can tell you is that when you have a name like Bashir, and then people are like, "Oh, Amro Bashir," and then you got like people in your high school, they don't know much about Sudan or something. They go do their research and they find out the president's name is Bashir, and so now you're getting mocked in high school. I had other Sudanese and Somalis and Yemenis, just me walking around class, they'll be like, Bashir! Like, they would scream my name, bro. They loved it, you're laughing. It rolls off the tongue beautifully when you shout out my name. Destiny's Child has nothing on me, bro.
That delivery.
Wallah, that's exactly one of the guys did it. He did it exactly like that. And then you have people in my high school. We are of like many different backgrounds, but that also includes religious backgrounds as well. So you've got your people who are more conservative, people who are liberal. So now you're dealing with the conservative guys, and they're like, they're not from Sudan, but they're like, Bashir is amazing, and you're like, yo, shut the hell up. And they're like, see, Syria Bashir. So now saying Syria Bashir, okay, if you think of it's just, it rolls off the tongue beautifully. Now you got Khawajat, now you got like Somali, Yemeni, you got these people, they'll say around Syria Bashir, So it's been a drip effect for 5 years during my years in high school. And even then, just a bit afterwards as well. Like, if I see some of the guys, I saw that same guy who said, Bashir Kira, yeah, man. I just randomly bumped into him into the street last night. He was like, Bashir, And so, when these guys are like, I think it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, these guys will be like, yeah, so when are you gonna take over Sudan, or when are you gonna like leave the country? And I'm like, yeah, shut up, whatever. But then it's weird. It's just weird, It's weird.
It kind of manifested itself into something different.
Well, it's manifesting itself now in a podcast when you're saying, hey, great leader. And I'm like, oh, listen, he didn't have humble beginnings, man. So,
yeah. Oh, no, I understand that completely, though. People saying something that is completely generalizes your life and your situation to the point that it kind of like starts messing with you as a kid. Now, I'm on this happened to me when I was a kid coming to America, where you're a Muslim kid coming in from an Arab country from the Middle East. And I think this is 02, 03, so I was 12, 13 years old. And kids would just, the moment they find out I'm Muslim, oh, you're Osama. They start calling me Osama.
Yeah, what?
And it wouldn't just end up with them saying that and let's move on. No. It will be that and then complete exclusion from whatever you were doing, because now we were making fun of you, but it was for real because that's how we really feel. So that kind of messed with me as a kid. So going back from the Arab world to the US, then back, it was kind of it's a confusing period. So I can completely understand when someone just uses something of yours against you, and it is something that you usually take with pride, like your name, your religion, your ethnicity. These are the things that they identify who you are, so you always want to defend it, or you'll find yourself obliged to at least be like, listen, no, I don't like this. And for kids, when they hear that's something you don't like, that's the ammunition they need. But I can see how you say that there was no trigger story, but there were triggering events.
Yeah. Heck, you just reminded me of another thing. So I'll let you in on a little secret, right? Yeah, maybe Mike, whatever. So I got bullied at high school, even though it was an ethnic place, right? And funny enough, I didn't know much on racism until it was a Sudanese person that was racist towards me. Hear me out, all right? So yeah, year 7, start of high school, and you're there with everybody else. Okay, so my identity in those years and still till now is that the people around me were Somalis and Yemenis. Yes, we had our Muslim Islam culture, but that still wasn't enough to define me, And so some people pick up cultures from the society they're in. All right, cool. But the things I saw from the mandem, from the guys, it wasn't. I didn't like all of it, So I didn't need to take the good and the bad, So I just took the good with it. But I was still trying to find my own identity. Whereas I found it envious that everybody else had their own thing. So Sudanese, and I'm sure you've probably heard, they were probably soul searching when they were a bit younger, especially the ones on the outside, right? Especially if they don't have that much exposure to, say, Sudanese people their age or haga. Okay, so you take as a Sudanese kid growing up in the UK, you take from the nearest ethnic minorities and such, and so it's I think it was okay for us to play play games with each other. Even though those games were part of another cultures, a part of another cultures. For example, the Somalis, they have this thing called Sabaha, which is like Nubian wrestling, and we would all do it together. It was nice, it was just a bunch of kids in the playground, just fighting, and it worked well. And the roasting, I think this is an old guys thing or whatever. But then, in my sense, I in that high school, I was like one of 3 Sudanese, and there was one a year above me and one in my year. More people joined. Out of the 3 of us, I was the one out of the darkest complexion, right? So, and now we're talking about late 2006, 2007. So the racist Sudanese mind it's always been around. And
it's developing now. You're like 12, developing. 13 at those times.
Yeah, and the term Junubi was used as and I'm guessing still used as a derogatory term, right? To say
signal your blackness.
Yes, exactly. And this was just during the time of after John Garang and his death, and I was in Sudan in 2005 when I witnessed that as well. It's like if you're darker, you're the problem, And even though it's supposed to, and you're part of this, part of the culture as well, where you now believe the darker you are, the more worthless you are, and that's what they gave me. So before you know it, another Sudani person will call me Junubi, right? And then it picked up Wakida, throughout everybody else. And now you hate yourself because, I'm guessing a lot of people had similar experience because you're black, just because you're darker than. So and then the other guy was, the other guy was basically, a Mac shade lighter than me, my guy, chill, bro. you shouldn't be chatting either. But,
the fact that he was one level lighter than you, that means he was better already.
Yeah. And so those triggering things, Adaha, your name is that of a dictator, and suddenly because of your color complexion, when you're younger, you're worthless, So, bruh, and that name they try to stick it onto, you retaliate. People like the reaction more than the actual thing,
And how were you to do with it? So, as a 12, 13-year-old, that's exactly what I was going to ask. How did you deal with it? How did it feel being the one being scrutinized for things that they can't control? How did it even feel when those things were happening? From a sense of, first, as a Sudanese kid, having that being done by Sudanese kids, or then going back a bit bigger. How did it feel when you're within your own community or your own circle, and then going back bigger? How did it look or make you feel when it came to the general perspective of things?
Now everybody wants to be dark skinned and cool, you know. That's that's how everybody like wants to see things now. But before it wasn't like that, you know. It definitely was not like that. So before, yeah, definitely the way I saw it, I don't owe Sudanese anything. I don't owe them crap. And why would I do anything for people such as that? You know, what would I give? Why would I give? But I guess as I grew older, and then you see all of BLM and the more inclusion and diversity side of things and whatnot. You kind of be like, oh, all right, so all this time I was the cool guy, and they were just hating on me. But you don't, I didn't learn about haters from then. I just thought everybody was chill.
Yeah, but that came much later on when it came to the BLM and everything. At that time, it must have
it messed with my head, definitely, man.
And it must have felt hopeless or lonely, because I can only imagine. I mean, I've had similar instances, and the one feeling that it gave me was that I'm alone. Because you can always go back to your family and stuff for comfort, but as a kid, you're forming your own identity. That identity is formed socially a lot of the time. And when you feel like you're rejected in a social sense, then a lot of the other issues start manifesting in your head. Why is it that I'm like this? Is it that I'm born in a bad place? Is I'm born in the wrong country? Am I, those questions. But I do want to go back to something you said that was happening around that time, which is the peace treaty that was done, a peace agreement, that was done between the North and the South. And, soon later, the leader of the South, basically South Sudan, was killed. And essentially what happened as soon as the news came out is any person who was from the South who was living in the North, which was a huge number, because people travel from the South to the North for work, send money back to their families and everything. So that whole population of Southern Sudanese people went into mass chaos. There was riots, there was protests, there were angry people because their hope has just been killed and they don't know who did it. There were rumors that it was the northern government. Some people were saying it was the southern. But to the people, they just lost their leader, and things were not safe for a few days, especially if you're a northern Sudanese kid. But as a kid, witnessing that, how was it? Can you tell me a bit more about your experience?
Wow. I was 10 years old. It was my first time returning to Sudan. I only went there once, like when I was 3 years old or something. And then, wow, I was carrying a knife at 10, for my own safety and protection. When I was in Wad Nabawi in Omdurman, and I went out with my cousin, and we just, we're away from our aunties, we're away from that sheltered protection. And I forgot what we were doing, but whatever it was, it involved a knife, on our persons for protection.
Where did you get the knives from, and how?
Bruh, I picked up a 9mm in my uncle's, and he said that is full of, everyone has personal protection equipment. I definitely believe, you're not going to rely on the police to look after your family, right? Or something like that. Of course, lo harami jal bayt, if a thief came into your home, you would have to protect yourself, something like the Second Amendment, just without a constitutional right. And yeah, we had a knife at one point. And another point when I was at my mother's back in Omdurman, Shara Arba'in, gang, gang. And when it got really crazy outside, the men would be outside and they would be equipped and armed just in case. And I remember those days. They were killings. Yeah, they were proper killings. And civil strife, especially after the leader of the South Sudanese people, John Garang, died, and then that's when I remember seeing on the TV this guy. My father spoke highly of him, and everybody else spoke highly of him. And at the same time, they were saying on how Junubis, or like, just using that derogatory term. Sorry, I had to say it, but like they were saying on how they were causing a trouble and such. Everyone with that kind of mindset, you can't blame them. They're just part of the system, right? How would you know better? But of course, when you become an adult, it's up to you. It's your responsibility to learn differently. And what I was seeing, just at 10 was, knives with blood, protest, anger, like locking me up inside. Don't go out. And it was possibly, I think, at that moment, that's where I become the person I am now. So, all right, let's quickly just sidestep, and then we're going to come back into this, right? So the kids that we see in the soda nowadays, right? The ones who are really doing things, mashallah, like, the country of Sudan, with the kids, if you see their mentalities, and I'll describe it to you later, I'm confident in the future of Sudan. I'm confident in the future of the country. Now, I think, in hindsight, I might have been one of those kids, but back in 2005, ready for this moment in 2021, 2022. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But instead, I was much more sheltered, much more whatever. I didn't get exposed as much as the kids of today have been exposed to it. But if that means...
Life is not really like a movie, where it's one specific event that starts that whole music montage of you growing up and becoming strong, and it's always a series of events that slowly shape you. Because when something happens, you need to take it in, think about it, let it take its effect on you, and then, on to the next thing, until you find yourself where you are.
Man, I guess so. Shit, all right, my bad. I thought my life was a movie. I took that personally, but
no, your life is more of a thick autobiography, because there is details to go through. Like, honestly, like, one thing that I want to go back to that you shortly mentioned was your father, and how he gave you that different narrative than what the media was saying at that time. Now, to give a general idea on what was said about John Gooding at that time, he was the boogeyman. As a kid, they used to tell us he's the boogeyman. Don't say his name too many times, because he might come for you and make you into a child soldier. I remember. So, like, to the generation that remembers the whole Joseph Kony and the kids and all of that, that was Sudan on a regular basis. And that was that's what was thought of that person by the northern, by the community in the north, because of the idea that's been propagated to them, the propaganda of that government. So for me, it was pretty interesting that you told me your dad was telling you something completely different. Now, my parents never really spoke about it much as a kid, or maybe I didn't pay attention. But what I've seen from the general consensus is that, yes, this guy, the killer, is now dead, and people are mad because they're killers. So there was always that negative look to it, just like we see now. When people went out and protested, these guys are criminals, these guys are this and that. And maybe to me, I'm also just realizing how, a whole group of people were just vilified over them asking for something small. So this goes back to the question of how did the opinion or the facts that were given to you by your dad and the different set of facts that are being given by everyone else, how did those clash, or how did those collide? How did that how did you filter through these things as a kid to know who's right and who's wrong?
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point. So the way I saw it with John Gordon, right? So as you said, there was the boogeyman narrative. The Joseph Kony kind of like, this guy's going to steal your kids or whatnot. But I don't think you need to be mature and old enough to see the way that Southerners were being treated in Sudan. Back in those times and beforehand, right? Like, you would think, you would see, and you're like, even you innately feel disgusted, innately. and then when you would just want the best for them, and you want them to get their just deserves, right? In this sense, the person, like, I quickly like added the pieces together. Is we grew up in a time that we understood who leaders were from a young age, or not leaders were, but like head figureheads, or like a person you can point to and say, that guy is their reis, or this woman is their queen or something, and to me, John Garang was that guy. You can tell, his just the importance of this figure for those people, for them to go out like that. That's when I clocked. And then when my father's always been anti Kazan, against them, like fully against them, and the whole the whole regime that's been happening for the past 30 years. He's never been fond of them. And so if there was one thing my father taught me, and it's maybe a bit controversial to a lot of people, he's saying this, but like you're a human first, and then you're a Muslim, and then a lot of other people is you're a Muslim first, then you're a human, But I think it's just with this profession. As a doctor, Kiraz, typical Sudani doctor, you see death enough times, and you see how people come to terms with it, and with their faiths, and they all do the same thing. They all do the same thing, and his conclusion to me was, Bashir, first you're a human, and then you're a Muslim. So now, if it's ironically enough, so this is now you're like 10, 11, questioning your own deen, because people within your country are saying that those who do not follow a certain guide or set of paths are not insan. They're like animals.
They're not human.
They're not human, and that's exactly what the war in Darfur was, and Nuba Mountains, and the Sudanese wars as well, the genocides. It was a crusade. It was a crusade of ideology that you're wrong, and that we need to ethnically,
because you're lesser human than me, so you're made for me to deal with you in whatever way I want.
Right, and that was the package sold to them, sold to the masses. That this is our justification for these for killing. Come on, man, that's crazy to have an ideology to the point you can look at another human being, and then not innately feel disgusted that you're gonna kill a person because they're just different from you, but like you're okay with that, You don't feel that disgust anymore. That's what my father taught me. It's remain human, Don't fall for the politics. Ironically enough,
no, that's very. It's different, and it's not different as in it's a bad thing. It's different as in that's refreshing, because there are many things that go into it. The main thing is that our politics, or politics in general, are usually so complicated that when it comes to having these conversations with our parents, especially as kids, the answers are never nuanced, and is very generalized, because they think, oh, this kid is not going to understand everything, so let me just give him the big picture and move on. So for that ideal, and those for your dad to open your eyes like this, in a sense of, hey, you're still a human, the humanistic sense, and all of that, that in itself is huge. Because as Muslim Arabs, that, was only given, especially around that time, to Palestine. What's going on in Palestine? We would say these things. They're humans. Why are you guys doing this to them? We're seeing people that we're calling our brothers and sisters, this happening to them. But then when it comes to our own, with our own ethnic brothers and sisters, we did not even try to push for those ideals. We did not even try. And I could completely see how that picture has been has been drawn in your head, because in the end you just wanted everybody to be treated in a way that is more welcoming, just like how it was when you first started in school, rather than the later part, right?
This is not podcast, this is therapy. This is amazing. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
No,
I can definitely see that.
That's beautiful. Okay, so now you're a kid. You're in high school. You're going through all of that, but you have all this information. You know things are not as general as they are. They're very nuanced. But what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. You're graduating high school. You're about to go into college. Can you talk to me about who Bashy was at that time? His mentality,
oh my God. Bashy
what
was
he
an
wanted
arrogant,
to do.
stupid boy that wanted to be a doctor just because he thought it was his freaking birthright or something like that. And he was this guy that thought he knew everything and thought he was so smart, and then he goes into A levels and then fails, you know. And then that was a very important time in my life when I first learned failure to that degree.
That you're not entitled to success just because.
Yeah, definitely. And I needed that wake up call. And it was in my first year of college. I picked physics, chemistry, and biology as my main A levels. Disgusting, right? And I failed. Of course, I failed because I was too arrogant. Didn't think I needed to revise. I thought it would be like GCSEs. You know, ended up the sixth form lounge, the college lounge, just ended up freaking people learning how to play halal blackjack and card games, kushtena.
Is that like your study halls where you guys go and prepare and everything?
Yeah, that's our common room, you know. And you know, at one point you're walking and you just see all the sixth formers, people from my dufa and the above and below, just doing the same thing, playing card games, and that led to you know, not surprisingly, everybody like almost failing that. So I ended up with UUE and E in biology. So I was like, oh, all right, at least I know what a plant is, you know. At least I know what photosynthesis is. And then
to give a bit more context on what U is, I studied in the GCSE system, so U is ungraded. Basically, you did so bad that they didn't bother finishing checking your answers because I remember those.
See that? So 2 U's and an E, you know, and then your parents have been pushing you, whatever, and then they see the results. Oh my God, that's when I need. I'm glad. I'm now grateful. I'm now in the very same room as I'm talking to you in that I was at my bed and then I was crying into my pillow. And I was like, what am I going to do with my life now? This is the end of the world for me. And I'm like 16, you know, or like pushing on to 17. No, just got to 17. And then, the rest of your mates are like, you know, going ahead of you in the year. You have to like see your options. Do you redo the year? Do you just drop out completely? Do you try to do it again and such? And that was a difficult time because all my life I was just geared towards the sciences, and now, if you told me what's a capitalist and a communist, I've heard those terms many times, but only thing I know is communism is red. You know, I don't know anything about social sciences. I don't know anything about the things I do now. And then I took a little bet. I've always wanted to do, before the sciences, RS, or religious studies, which involved philosophy and ethics. Sociology was just the name in itself sounded intimidating for me, but you know, screw it. Let's take another challenge, clearly Bash. And
I mean, it was part of the curriculum, like something that was offered to you, or was it something that you went out of your way to take it on?
Yeah, went out of my way to take. Even in GCSE, you know, it's an option. You don't learn it. The compulsories like English, maths, and sciences. As long as you know those, you're pretty much good. But study on society, oh mate, we don't want you to study that. We don't want you to become too, you know, not able to work. School is just used, you know, to make employees, right? Anyway, so
from a parent's standpoint, they just want you to do good. They want you to have something that is.
Way. My father didn't want to talk to me for 2 weeks. Do good, man. Like I
the disappointment.
The disappointment. Oh my God! So that disappointment, you know, turned on a few levers in my head. And I had a conversation with my friend during those down moments, and he also was going through the same thing. You know, nafsa dufa. And he said to me, "Yo, Bash, why be good at something when you know you can be great at something else? And okay, sciences I'm good at, but then, you know, something else. What am I great at? Something else. So, you know, you have to do a bit of digging. So I initially wanted to study RS, governmental politics and sociology. Parents said no, go into the sciences. I failed the sciences. Now I want to do the thing I want to. They were like, okay, you're a deadbeat anyway. Fuck you. I mean, like, pardon the French, but like that's essentially how it felt. So now I was just really focused on proving people wrong. And it shocked everybody around, you know. I was that nerdy physics kid, and biology, chemistry. I hate it. Don't tell me what a mole is, you know. The only moles I know is animals and the things on people's faces, not the measurement of I don't know, of hydrogen or something. And then I was just really focused on making up on that disappointment, I guess, in an area of study that we as Sudanese don't take seriously. But that's not a problem.
Did you feel like that was a challenge for you that you wanted to take rather than the conventional challenge that everyone else was taking? Like, did you want to take a different route?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah, as I said, my father was a doctor. Is a doctor, I see this guy's eyes. Like, there's one thing telling me, yeah, you know, go into medicine, and then as you're saying that to me, yeah, his eyes are bloated, deep bags, you know, into his skull, and red as hell. From you know the late night shifts he had to go through to support for us, right? Now, as I'm forever grateful for my whole life. I'm forever grateful for that. Though when I see his eyes, do I want those eyes? Do I want those very same eyes? But I guess to like Sudanese fathers, to Sudanese men, you know, this kind of thing where we stay quiet and we take the brunt, we take the force because we know it's for the better of the family.
Struggle in silence.
The struggle in silence, you know. I saw that in my own father, and I'm not gonna lie. It's the most honorable, commendable, valuable thing, you know, and I've ever seen a person do. This.
But do I want that?
Do I want that? You know, exactly. And you know, am I any less of a person if I don't do it? And such. Bro, is there something wrong if you want to live comfortably, and you know, while at the same time making sure? I just don't want to end up looking like my dad. You know, he's my role model. But
exactly.
I don't want to end up like, you know, having to suffer like that, man. Like in silence, thanks to the culture.
Yeah, that's. No, I completely I get that, because the one thing that my dad, whenever I go do something wrong and then, you know, he goes off on me for a few days, then we calm down and have a conversation. He goes like, listen, why I'm mad or why I react in the way I want is because in the end in life, I want you guys to be better than me and your mom, no matter what happens. And to them, you know, they were raised in a way that it's one of a few routes. It's not the arts, it's not the athletics. It is the sciences and the physical sciences, not the social sciences. Those are the things that will most likely guarantee you a specific type of life. But then from there, whatever way we raise you at, that will kind of either elevate you or push you down. But if I build you in the right foundation and lead you in the right way, then that's it. I've done my job. Now my raising will do its job. And I find it extremely commendable to be able to kind of have that conversation or have that understanding from your parents. Because at first, it will never happen. I highly doubt that the general consensus of parents will say yes to something like that from the beginning. Yeah, I'm taking social sciences, religious studies, kiddo. They're going to be like, what are you going to do with that? Do you want to become a teacher? Teachers don't get paid. That's the max you can do with it. Or do you want to just be a guy that does this or that? To them, that does not, like, where are you going to go with it, right? So I kind of get it. But so having all of that happening, and then you're pushing yourself to make up, to kind of put yourself back in that route in their eyes. How hard did you have to work to go from his disappointment, he failed, We set him up with everything. We worked so hard on getting this, and he still was so hard-headed he wanted to get his way through. Maybe, to them, maybe it's just you wanting to be a hardhead. Maybe to you, you just were not interested enough to learn it. But both ways, it still leads to the same way, which is, I'm disappointed in him. He's not like the rest of the kids. But now, Bashy himself at that time, Bashir what is he doing? How is he preparing himself to take on this new challenge of rebuilding himself by himself?
Man, I remember those days. I was shunned. I was shunned by the community. So my family were like, even by the Sudanese community. If I'm sure, I haven't asked them this, but I'm sure they felt a sense of embarrassment. When people ask you, so what's your son doing, or what's he trying to study and such. It's just that crappy social dynamics that we have, right? And at that time, I was definitely shunned. So if at first I wanted to seek that validation from my elders, then I grew to love the whole thing, right? That I'm doing. I realized I was getting top marks. I understood it. It was just easy for me. It was just like, it was easy to understand, and that's not saying the subject is easy in itself. No, it's some people find things they enjoy more than others. Before you know it, and here's where we get to the main next checkpoint. So now I'm in college. I'm in my final year. And one of these community organizer guys, he goes around visiting different high schools. His name is Ali Abdi, what a legend. Somali guy, elder. And he wants to give back to the community. He wants to work with the youth, with the kids and everything. Anyway, so he comes through and he says this idea of he's looking for a few young people. They want to do some kind of like, he sold it in the package of local political participation, and when you read the theory enough times, you want to try it at least, you want to know what campaigning is. What the hell is campaigning? It was he was providing with these kind of skill sets that we could do that the normal curriculum in schools wouldn't teach you, and of course I want to apply that into practice. So he comes through. And he ropes us into this scheme where we, he introduces me to another guy named Jonathan Cox, and this bold white guy, middle-aged, speaking like Queen's English, government guy. Now you're the one who's trying to go into politics and all this social sciences. So you think, oh, okay, this guy Ali Abdi must be the gatekeeper or something, into those kind of circles. And then you get interested, and before you know it, Ali Abdi and Jonathan Cox taught me the thing that I'm still using to my life now. And this is what I mean. This is the question I meant by earlier. Everything you're going to hear, even from before, even now, and then future, did it all meant to be? So they introduced me to community organizing through their organization called Citizens UK, and their way of doing things was super new to me. It's all this grassroots activism, people's assemblies, things on a horizontal kind of scale in terms of power. Nothing vertical like top boss, little crony.
It's more of in one line. We're all working together to move up.
Yes, exactly. So I've been exposed to that idea at 17 years old. After failing everything, trying a new thing in my life, and even I had to go against the traditional power structures in my head. You have fi lazim, wahid fawq, wahid tahid. I was against that idea initially. I was like, what the hell? But then when I did this campaign, and this is what changed my whole life. It's these serious events. I do my first ever campaign, bro. I'm now. I'll tell you the ending. I ended up basically me and the people. We ended up doing a community campaign against Nando's, the restaurant, because in Cardiff there's 3 Nando's. We're a population of 350,000 people. The majority of them in any inner city, any inner center city, whatever, you know what I mean? like inside the city, is majority Muslims or majority ethnic. Yet our nearest halal Nando's was like 20 miles out. So if I wanted to enjoy a Nando's, like, you know, with my family, with friends, I had to go 20 miles out on a train. But none of the 3 halal Nando's that were walking distance were halal. I know it sounds stupid. I know it may sound like that, but hear me out. It's a bigger story than that. And
it's a way to start.
Yeah, and it's essentially after a year and a few months of campaigning, we managed to convince Nando's to close down one of their stores, reopen it again as halal, and then we enjoyed it, so we can all do it together. And to accomplish that goal, at one point I ran 20 miles in a chicken costume, from Cardiff Bay to the nearest halal Nando's, just to prove a point. This is how far Muslim families and ethnic people and, you know, just people in Cardiff have to go and travel to enjoy a meal together. This wasn't only, and we did it in an excellent way, which was, this isn't a Muslim only issue. This is a Cardiff issue. This is a Welsh issue. And we did that through civil society, through alliances with different, of civil society. So colleges, schools, ambulances, like the health board, the police, churches, mosques, anything that, universities, anything that had the council, anything that had legitimacy based on the amount of people it represented, we asked them to join our alliance. So now it's not just like the Muslim peeps, the Muslim teams who are asking for this. It's now you're in a big alliance with all these people backing you. You make it into an hour thing, you know. And bro, like, it works. It gets results. So this whole thing of resistance committees, this whole thing of civil society, civic society, I got a taste of that from 17, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. This works. This is a great way of getting many different elements of a society together, and not just be like, if we can all have a roundtable discussion with each other first and see what our top three issues that we have in common between us, then we can tackle those problems together, united, rather than being a bit divided and having allocation of funds and resources, playing a problem. And it was that united front that was my first campaign. Afterwards, from there, I learned. I'm doing a campaign on living wage, so increasing the wage from the minimum wage here in Cardiff to at least the minimum being the living wage. So with those,
just to make enough to, يعني على القليلة, if you're gonna pay the minimum, please give them enough to live. يقدروا ياكلوا ويشربوا to live their life.
Exactly. And we've done a number of campaigns at Cardiff Airport. We had a Qatari billionaire guy opening up their new Airbus and everything, and we've learned many different tactics. Like the action you want is based on, the reaction you want is based on of an action. And if you want a seat at the table, if you're not on the menu, you're probably
are the menu.
Yeah, you probably are on the menu. I messed that one up. Hold on. I'll remember it clearly. If you don't have a seat on the table, you're probably on the menu. So what you want to do is get yourself onto that seat so you can negotiate. And that's what I meant earlier by that representativeness, that inclusiveness. Having people together from different communities, we're getting grown, bro. We can't be having these same old freaking. I don't want my kids, inshallah, one day to be having the same problems I'm having. But that's what our parents were also saying about their generation, and now we're in the context of Sudan and in many other contexts.
طب هسي انت you've seen civil resistance in Sudan. You've participated in civil resistance in the UK, and each you're part of that. Yani you're Sudanese in the first one, the second one you're a citizen of the UK. How does that feeling come in when you feel like you accomplished something? That feeling of, okay, أنا عملت حاجة for the first time and look how good I did. As a British citizen, how was that feeling, and how did that make you feel about your role or who you are كزول سوداني يعني for Sudan?
Well, bro, I can definitely say it's the feeling I felt after doing the first one, this chicken run campaign, other than hungry and freaking, and now we have halal Nando's, is that with the right negotiations, with the right tactics, and with the right actions. Like by actions, I don't mean like a move of a hand. Maybe that, but with the right display, you can actually do something. With the right creation. In fact, if anything, I realized I don't need anything else. I got everything I have with me, wallahi. I've got two hands. I have two hands. I have two legs. Sometimes working brain, and and a burning heart. And I think I managed to prove to myself that I don't need a big budget. I don't even need a budget. I really don't need anything. If I've learned how to be very resourceful in any situation I've been given in, and that things that may be considered impossible to do or like too big to do, it's just a matter of I'm not going to say manipulating things with your hand, because it kind of has a negative connotation, but essentially you got two hands for you to make things happen. Like, to me, the whole world, and bro, the whole world to me is like clay. Like that's how I see it now.
You have to use your two hands to build that house.
And I know it sounds cliche, it sounds generic, but it's I'm sure people who realize this about themselves, yani, you can do something, man. It's the simplest way I could say it. I don't know how to say it.
No, I think you said it perfectly, because if you compare it to what we have been told as a generation, anyone whose family has had to leave Sudan or even suffer in Sudan because of everything that happened with the new regime at that time, one thing that they always pushed for was, listen, you're in a different country, just conform. Speaking up, asking too many questions, all of that is bad. So how about you just conform, move with the system, and that's it. Don't speak up. Don't put yourself in the middle of the spotlight. Don't be the face or the name of anything. Just conform, stay next to the wall, head down, and just keep walking. That's usually what I would hear from like Sudanese parents that has had to deal with those type of things in our age. Just seeing how 1989 happened, how no matter how much you protested, things are just going bad. And things are just getting worse and worse, to the point that you lose hope, and you don't want your kids to go through that same, emotion of, hey, something can happen if I do something, this and that. And then, God forbid, that kid, something happens to him, he dies, something, and nothing changes. Now the parent will feel like their kid died for nothing. They raised, like that whole emotion of it. So it kind of like scares them from taking that risk. So it kind of tells them, you know what? No, guys, conform, deal with this, go to school, go to your work, whatever it is, go back home and say, alhamdulillah, everything is good. So why I say all that is your accomplishment was outside of that perspective, especially at the time that it was. In itself, yani, you were, I wouldn't say super ahead of the time, because some other people tried to protest before, but at least you were not in the general consensus. You were thinking of things in a different way, you're doing it differently. But now, how did all of these experiences find themselves playing a part in 2019? Because that's how I got to know Bashy, as an activist, someone who's a political organizer in the UK, but is also doing so much for Sudan. And this is during the 2019 beginning of that revolution and until it ended, or that part ended. You were out there, you were doing things, you were in touch with the UK government, you were doing a lot that was in the background. Tell me more about that. How did your original experiences bring you to this point where...
Wow. All right. If you okay. Then there's a few like little holes I'm gonna quickly fill in. All right.
Please.
During my time in high school, I was also a cadet in the Royal Air Force, in the ATCA training corps. From there, I learned discipline and learned how to, the usual military tricks and parades and drills and everything. And I was there for a few years, going up the ranks. That was like a Monday and a Friday thing. So learn how to shoot a gun, clean a gun, and such. I'll come back to this later, all right? At some point, when you ask me that question, what I had to do also after in that first few years of how now you're doing social sciences, political kind of stuff, the things that our parents did not like. My first internship in my life was with my local MP, member of parliament, as you would call a congressman, right? Or congresswoman. That person opened the doors for me amazingly. We're going to come back to this person later. His name is Stephen Doughty. Amazing fella, right? I'm giving you a shout out, mate. Hey. And then going to university, I went into Royal Holloway, University of London, in a little tiny village called Egham. If you heard of it, it's I can't even finish it. All I have to say is, Dr. Seuss, he doesn't like green eggs and ham. Yeah, it comes from Egham because it's just green, and I can see why he doesn't like it. It's too boring. And I studied philosophy, politics, and international relations during my time there. And the things I was really interested in the most was kind of UN, international development aid work kind of thing, even though, you later learn down the line, it's kind of like Pandora's box, right? But for that time being, let's go. Anyway, so after all those kind of experiences and campaigns and, touch and go on many different things, more I probably definitely forgot about. Then came the 2019 kind of revolution, right? So 2018, November, I was in Sudan, just graduated from uni, and really just wanna, I want to see the world a bit. I haven't been in Sudan in 5 years. Nas al-balad بقول أنا كوج عديل كده. They call me bad luck, bro. So every time I come to Sudan, 2005, John Gurren, right? 2007, 2007 8, Khalid Ibrahim, invaded into Khartoum. 2009 مشاكل في الدمازين. 2011 السودان وجنوب السودان اتفصلوا. 2013 مظاهرات مع جامعة الخرطوم. Sorry for the bad English, Arabic, guys. I'm not going to say sorry. I'm not even.
No, please.
I'm not apologizing for that.
No.
And I told them in the Sudan, 5 سنوات. So the next time after the muzaharat in 2013, and witnessing that was 2018. There at November, I'm there where the straw is about to break the camel's back. The amount of pressure and the amount of load is just too much. And then boom, I witnessed the start of the soda, and that was something. So I was there until January in 2019, and then I went back to the UK, and then I definitely felt something ignite in me, something different. It's like having every single one of your cells in your body just suddenly on fire, suddenly burning with fuel, and
did that feeling come while you were in Sudan or when you came to the UK?
When I came to the UK. Okay, because it turns out, like, when you're in Sudan, everyone has that feeling. يعني لازم اتصرف, it's the word اتصرف, يعني it's the most, to me, if you told me, okay, Bashir, go become the president of Sudan, and if I ask you how, and you just say to me اتصرف, bro, I will do it. I don't know how, but I'll do it. I'll find a way, that word has a powerful hold on me.
Definitely. So you go to the UK, Your cells are burning in revolution, basically.
Yeah. You don't notice it in Sudan because, everybody's on it. But then when you come back to a quiet place like the UK, you realize, wait a minute, I'm the only one who's feeling this type of way, around my immediate vicinity, unless they went to Sudan or haga. I'm sure people felt like that even before, if they didn't need to go to Sudan. But I only felt this. I can only talk about how I felt, right? And it was, before you know it, I was like, all right, let me try put my theory into practice. The simple things like, okay, sending a letter to your MP, to condone what's going on. Then I bump into lovely people like MJ Mundur and Ibi, who start off the lovely organization that we managed to meet through SDN Sudanese Diaspora Network, right?
Absolutely.
And that one's a whole nother chapter in itself, of how that changed my life. And I'm sure yours as well, right?
Shout out to those brothers, absolutely.
Shout out to those, they're amazing. And before you know it, many opportunities and doors were opened. And I remember, like, I don't remember much because what we may call normal stuff to another person is just like, yo, what the hell, right? So, for example, we were raising awareness, fundraising, getting the message out there, and even like policy recommendations or whatever, right? So my MP, Stephen Doughty, here we are again. So that guy who was my first boss in my internship, he's still the person around the area. And he said, hey, listen, I would love, since you're in Sudan, right? I said, yeah. I would love if you could come into Parliament and then, advise and speak to us in the British government on Sudan and what you saw and what you understand. And that was through also... That introduced me to another group called Waging Peace. It's crazy, and it's because my MP was sitting on the chair as one of the vice chairs or something of the Sudan group, the all-party parliamentary group of Sudan. This guy that took me in when I was 17, to do my first internship and to understand politics. Now he's offering me a chance to talk about my country and what we can do and such. For a soda, bro, what the hell, you know what? And then I was with some other people, and all these guys are elders, all these Sudanese guys from all over the UK. And I'm the youngest one there. And I'm like, oh, all right, something's working clearly. And then from there, I when the massacre happened, on June 3rd, of course, we all felt, horrible and disgusted that day, and sad. But the way that we kind of like had an outlet for that through the creative means was remarkable. We as a people at that time, I don't think we saw an event before that with the Sudanese diaspora and the people
we're united as one.
We're united in such a way that and the way they told their stories and the pain in their hearts and how they managed to connect to that and get it out. We don't exactly grow up in a very emotionally, you can talk about it, culture, and then now we're having a bunch of youth and young professionals basically aiding each other to do that.
Absolutely.
And my way of it was I saw many people writing 1,000 words. I didn't want to do that, so God forbid. Now that I'm saying it sounds a bit crazy. But I woke up the next day. I wore a white jalabia. I told my Sudani peeps around the city, "Asma, just wear something white. We're going to do a photo shoot in the middle of town, in the middle of the city center. I bought some fake blood and just put it all over them and all over myself. And then we went around town and said, this is what happened to our people, the massacre. And we took those photos and people were interested. And then we had those, the links, the QR codes to the petitions I never think petitions work anymore, but back then when I was a bit more gullible,
it was your best way to bring attention to a situation that people did not essentially care about. يعني لو انت في UK, they don't really care unless their government تقول لهم, listen, this is happening, this is how it will affect you as a UK citizen. But then people usually care about those things.
Yeah, you have to find the little connector, you know.
You have to get their attention.
And my attention was wearing a I'll send you the photo if I can. Wearing a jalabia and being in the middle of the town on the floor with my eyes wide open like I was dead, like somebody. And then you can just see in the background of the photo, you could see people just looking at me in such curiosity. And they came up to us asking, yo, what's going on? What's this? What's that? It might have been a bit too graphic, but wallahi, maybe it was just the intensity of the situation I felt. You know, that's how intense I felt it. The police didn't do anything. They were like, yeah, it's calm, whatever. And yeah, man, before you know it, at that very same day, I released those photos. I went everywhere online. Next thing you know, I got a text message saying, hey, Bashir, why is your face on Al Jazeera? I said, what? So they start sending me pictures. And it wasn't even the nice pictures of me, man. It was the crap ones, right? So it was like me hiding behind a tree, like as if like, you know, somebody taking cover while haggis they could have. And there was me on Al Jazeera on the same day. And then I was like, whoa, okay. So when it comes to the power of the media and such, this stuff could work out. As I said, I have nothing but 2 hands, legs, a burning heart, and, you know, sometimes working brain. And that idea exploded, and I said, all right, that worked well. So in this kind of like, you know, age we live in,
you have to get people's attention some way, somehow. To do that, you have to get the attention of the media. So what I'm understanding, يعني إنه لما مشيتوا البارلمنت, you spoke, you wrote your 1,000 words telling the government why they should care about Sudan. It didn't take you too far. ما عملت حاجة. The second resort is خلاص ده ما نفع, or while this is happening أنا أعمل حاجة تانية to guarantee that there's at least a plan B, a way to مثلا نوري الناس الحاصل, and at the same time push the people that ignored us before to do something. لأنه I already خلاص أديتهم الريكوست, وريتهم الحاصل شنو, and they didn't want to listen. But now that they have Al Jazeera asking them, hey, why did that kid do كده 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 وعمل كده بيتكلم عن الحاجة وانتم ما عملتوا حاجة, he's going to say, oh, you know what, he actually wrote me a letter, him and all of the people that were working like him, to do something. يعني نحن في أمريكا we had the same issue where our government did not care. نحن ما كنا بنشوف عنا حاجة في الأخبار, to the point that we were just pushing and pushing, calling congressmen, calling people. بس المشكلة إنه being في أمريكا, the country that already is kind of the reason why Sudan is cut from the world by the sanctions and everything, for us to just convince them to even listen to us, إنه يعني كده stop thinking about the sanctions, let's think about what's going on. That was already hard enough. بعدين and I can understand this also about the UK, is that with the birth of the online world and different ways of media, aka the fourth estate, it gave us different ways of showing the message or giving out the message, but at the same time, it was also such a big, such an ocean full of things happening that it could be easily drowned in the noise. يعني مثلا we can have on Twitter, exactly, like on Twitter we can have 100,000 people making a hashtag, make it go trending for half an hour. But if 2 celebrities broke up, خلاص, that thing is going to go down, and then it's going to go lower and lower, and to the point that the people that needed to hear it did not hear it fast enough or in time for them to do something. So I say all of that to say that you having a plan A and a plan B to both work together and separately is brilliant. Is brilliant because you put yourself in a tough situation in front of everyone. تخلي الناس كلها تعاين لك انت بتعمل في شنو. But at the same time, you find yourself in Al Jazeera because people are now speaking about it. There's a reason for it to be there. But to me, that is where like effectiveness starts becoming. And what I'm seeing is that this is your second, let's say, successful political push. First, thank you so much for making it this far with us. Next week, we will continue the story with Elbashir and find out how he went from a young student in Wales to the front lines of the Sudanese revolution. This is your cousin Amro, and much love. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.
I've been myself, I don't care what you want or don't want me to be. Said I'ma make it, and when I gon' make it, and all of my brothers gon' need